Well, this certainly wasn't a video I was intending to make. In fact, I just did a video early this morning about the updates of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, in which I said near the end that I'm very skeptical that we'll ever reach a verdict and that it might be a hung jury. About 4 hours later, while at work, I received a notification about the latest news. And to my shock, the jury ended its 6 days of deliberations and returned a guilty verdict on 5 of the 6 counts. The guilty verdict, the guilty charges were conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, sex trafficking conspiracy, sex trafficking of a minor. She was found not guilty of enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. I believe that was referring to the victim Jane, known as her synonym Jane. Yeah, this was really a shock, because I was afraid that the lack of eyewitnesses. Now, there were 4 that testified, and I said there was a whole lot more they could have gotten. The photos, the CDs, which were recovered by Epstein's lawyer when he heard the FBI was coming to serve the Manhattan apartment with a warrant and search its belongings. The FBI found out that Epstein's lawyers took those photos and CDs, which were the videos in which he outfitted his entire house in Palm Beach, Florida, the New Mexico ranch, and the Manhattan apartment with listening devices and cameras. Who knows what could be on those? But Epstein's lawyer said he gave the CDs and the photos to the FBI, and that was not used in the trial. Why? I don't know, but I think we could probably put some conspiracy on that and make it sound rational, in that there are some high-powered people that were involved in the blackmailing of Jeffrey Epstein, the late Jeffrey Epstein, the sexual abuser of underage girls. It was very surprising because there was a lot of people that I have come to follow on Twitter, and some of them that follow me, that were very hesitant on thinking this would be over before the new year, or that she would be found guilty of the most serious charges. She's actually found guilty of the most serious charge of sex trafficking of a minor, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 and a minimum sentence of 20. Either way, if she got the minimum, it's a death sentence because she just turned 60 years old. And I'm going to give my opinions about what could come from this. During the reading of the guilty verdicts by the judge, Maxwell showed no visible sign of emotion as the verdict was read, only pouring a glass of water in which she sipped from it twice. She was very stoic. The legal team, now some news venues were saying that they were not sure that they were going to appeal, but according to the BBC, that as shortly after the verdict was read, the legal team were already working on an appeal. So we have that. Whether that appeal will go through, I don't know. But one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers and victims was Teresa Helm, who was quoted as saying, "Justice takes the lead today. I am consumed with gratitude for every brave, courageous, and justice-driven person that has fought for this outcome. Ghislaine Maxwell never had the opportunity to take anything from anyone. She will reside on the other side of freedom." End quote. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams welcomed the verdict and commended the bravery of the victims that came forward, in which he said that a unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children. However, this is not the end of Maxwell's trial. In fact, she will now face a separate trial, and this is for perjury, 2 counts of perjury. And U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan agreed to in April. In the perjury case, prosecutors did say that Ghislaine Maxwell lied during a 2016 deposition taken as part of a defamation lawsuit brought by Epstein accuser Virginia Guiffre. While the suit was settled for an undisclosed amount, prosecutors used portions of Maxwell's sworn testimony as a basis for the charges, saying she lied when asked about Epstein's activities, denying knowledge of his recruitment and interaction with underage girls. According to the deposition transcript, Maxwell was asked at least 5 different times if she believed that Epstein sexually abused minors, to which Maxwell responded, "You're asking me to speculate, and I won't speculate." And she didn't even say no. So, incredible news, really. And now, the big question. What about the Black Book? What about the names that were involved in the Black Book? The book that Jeffrey Epstein took, the book that one of his servants at his Florida mansion said that there were a number of notebooks and Black books that Epstein kept, not just one, but a couple. Now, this is the crux of a deeper, more nefarious operation at charge. Sure, we can demean the late Jeffrey Epstein for his sadistic and morbid sex crimes. Sure, we can demean and convict Ghislaine Maxwell for assisting and even participating in the crimes of sex trafficking and sex abuse. But what about the others? The others that the victims, like Maria Farmer and Sarah Ransome and Virginia Guiffre and Katlyn Doe, Lisa Doe, Priscilla Doe, Teresa Helm, Jane Doe #2, and Jennifer Araoz, who all claim, and as well as the Epstein pilots, who basically said that they flew very high-powered names on board the aircraft. The pilots, such as Larry Vazosky, who basically said that there was a number of people he flew, including Prince Andrew and Kevin Spacey, and a number of others. According to a Gawker article entitled "Here is Pedophile Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book," which was written by Nick Bryant on January 23rd, 2015, in which excerpts of the book was shared with Nick Bryant. And the article states that in the Black Book, in which some names were left unredacted, names such as Donald Trump, Courtney Love, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Alan Dershowitz, Alec Baldwin, Ralph Fiennes, Griffin Dunn, New York Post gossip Richard Johnson, Ted Kennedy, David Koch, filmmaker Andrew Jarecki, as well as Alex Lowe, Richard Longsdale, David Lindsley, Babis Legos, Paul Lister. Goodness gracious, remarkable amount of names. Former New Mexico Governor Bruce King, former New Mexico Governor and Democratic presidential hopeful Bill Richardson, Peter Soros, the nephew of George Soros, Eva Anderson, the former Miss Sweden and socialite New York City doctor, billionaire Leslie Wexner, Kevin Spacey, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and yes, a number of others, incredible amount of names that I could probably take the next 15 minutes. Remarkable. I mean, I'll even share the article in the bottom of the description. Now, what about this book? What about the names? Are they now going to be forgotten? Why wasn't this brought to light? Why wasn't it? And that's a great question. And I think that's something that we should entertain now that the trial is over. According to the New York Times, Ghislaine Maxwell's little black book was to remain secret after the judge warned against needless name dropping. Needless name dropping. Now, of course, this is a separate trial. This is the Maxwell trial, Ghislaine Maxwell, regarding sex trafficking. Now, this could have been brought into as evidence by the prosecution. I don't know why, but then they would have to worry about counter lawsuits, right? Because there is, I want to make this clear, the names that I just mentioned, only names that there were people on the plane. They were not found guilty of sexual abuse of minors or having sex with anyone, save for the fact that you have certain victims in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial who did say that they were lured and even engaging in sex with some of those names. Virginia Guiffre herself was abused by Alan Dershowitz and Prince Andrew. And she also said, I think Donald Trump was another, and Bill Clinton. Now, Judge Allison Nathan, she said 2 weeks ago that she wanted to avoid needless name dropping during the trial, in which they didn't, I don't know whether it would have made a difference or not, whether if the names were dropped, that means they had to prove that they were engaging in the crimes of underage sex with a minor. And there is no evidence for this. Now, the pilots themselves did testify that they saw these people on the plane, but that's it. That's all we know. So the only thing we can hope for is that one day we get to know what was on those CDs. Now, according to former employees of Epstein in Florida at his Miami, I want to say it's Miami Beach, I forgot, and in Manhattan, Epstein, and as well as the New Mexico range, Epstein installed concealed cameras in numerous places on all of his properties. And this was to allegedly record sexual activity with underage girls by the prominent people for criminal purposes, such as blackmail. What else would it be? Now, according to Maxwell, she told a friend that Epstein's private island in the Virgin Islands was completely wired for video and even had people in hidden rooms who were watching the video. Now, who are those people? And that this person, the friend of Maxwell, believed that Maxwell and Epstein were videotaping everyone on the island as an insurance policy. And when the police raided his Palm Beach residence in 2006, they found 2 hidden pinholes, cameras that were discovered in the home. And it was also reported by the FBI that Epstein's mansion in New York was wired extensively with a video surveillance system. Maria Farmer, who worked for Epstein in 1995, noted that Epstein showed her a media room in the New York mansion where there were individuals monitoring the pinhole cameras throughout the house, and that the media room was access to a hidden door. And she stated that in the media room, there were men sitting there. Now, this is a direct quote. There were men sitting there, and I looked on the camera and I saw toilet, toilet, bed, bed, toilet, bed. She also added that it was obvious they were monitoring private moments. And I mean, now it's no secret that Epstein had lent these girls to powerful people to ingratiate himself with them and to possibly gain blackmail information. Now, who are the masters of blackmail? The intelligence services, because information is power. Now you'll understand why I harp, when it comes to 9/11, I harp on the intelligence agencies. Because when you have information, you can control kings and queens and presidents and leaders of all the nations on earth. Now, according to the FBI, Epstein had kept compact discs locked in his safe in the New York mansion. That's the CDs I'm talking about. And they had handwritten labels on there that included the descriptions such as young redacted blank and blank. You know, these are all names. And Epstein implied that he had blackmailed material when he told a New York Times reporter in 2018 off the record that he had dirt on powerful people, including information about their sexual proclivities and recreational drug use. And on August 10th, 2019, shortly after he made that offhanded remark to the New York Times, Epstein was found suicided at Manhattan Correctional Facility. And I did a video about that regarding Epstein and his connections with Israeli intelligence and his family background. And I would suggest you go listen to that video. In fact, that was almost 2 hours long. So I'm not going to repeat myself here. Okay. Now what? Ghislaine Maxwell is convicted of 5-6 counts. She could appeal. I'm going to say it probably won't matter. It's a life sentence for Maxwell. 20 years would be a life sentence for her if she got 20. She's looking at 70, 40 years for sex trafficking of a minor alone. So now, what can we expect? Now, here are my opinions, my thoughts, right? The people in power who may have had sexual relations with underage women, who may have had who may be involved with even sex trafficking of a minor or assisting in sex trafficking of a minor and or drug use. This would destroy a career. Now we're talking about former presidents, ambassadors, high-powered actors in Hollywood, world leaders here. This is no joke. High-profile lawyers, huge names. I'm not talking about reality TV here, folks. influential names. And with Epstein's background, as well as Maxwell's background in intelligence, it seems, because that's what the Department of Justice even implies, that this was a blackmail operation. It was obvious that the reason why they videoed and wired the places where these activities would take place so they could take advantage of these people. Or maybe gain knowledge about certain things, such as what they were doing in foreign policy, what they were going to do in passing legislation in Congress, or maybe rubbing elbows with the luminaries in Hollywood. Who knows? Was it about money? Was it about fame? Human dominion? Could be a combination of all these things. But now that Maxwell is found guilty, and if she appeals and loses, the question remains, does she silently just die off? Or does she say, I'm not the only one who's going down for this? That was the worry with Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why they found him suicidal. So what can we take away from this? Well, Maxwell could get a visit by someone, I don't know who, maybe someone in the Black Book, or maybe an emissary of somebody who's named in the Black Book, telling her, we won't kill you, but you got to do the rest of time. Or we won't kill your family, but you just have to do your time and shut up. She does have family. They were at the trial. They made themselves quite known because they were very loud about Maxwell's appearance and how she was treated in trial. Who cares? But the point is, they don't need to reach her specifically. They could get to her family. And if they could get to her family, they could get to her. If they could get to Epstein, they could get to her. Epstein was under suicide watch, and the cameras all of a sudden didn't work, and the guards, well, they weren't watching. And if you believe that that was all just a coincidence, that he really broke his neck in 4 places, well, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Now I'm right here in Westchester. Will we ever know if Maxwell doesn't talk? Does the case simply get ignored by the media now that the trial is over and the sentencing phase is upon us? But once that passes, will the media care? Of course not. They barely cared here. This is the first time I'm seeing a lot of the major networks covering the trial because she was found guilty. They're probably in shock, like I am. But you can see where I'm going with this. That it very well could come down to Maxwell's personal health and the health of the people that are her family and friends. Not even her friends. She may not even care. But her family, maybe. Does she stay silent? And if she does, what about the Black Book? What about the CDs? What about the photographs? Will they ever become public? Maybe from a FOIA request 30, 40 years from now. If at all. However, that's the end of this chapter. And so another chapter will begin when the sentencing phase comes and once 2022 rolls upon us in the next day and a half. I myself will not be optimistic about the release of the names because for me, this is the big important issue. Yeah, Epstein's dead. yeah, Maxwell's convicted, but that's not it. And you shouldn't be satisfied with just that. We need to know who these people are because they're the ones who are bigger and more powerful than Epstein and Maxwell ever could be or even dreamed to be. And these are the people who are influencing our daily lives through entertainment and through politics. And these are the people who victimize young underage women, the real victims. And we should be thankful to the victims who came out because it wasn't easy for them to do this, knowing that they would be under a global spotlight and their shame would be known to the public. But they shouldn't be ashamed. And they should be reassured. And they should be labeled as heroes for bringing about a conviction on Maxwell and a conviction on Epstein. So a thank you to Maria Farmer, her sister Annie Farmer, Virginia Guiffre, Sarah Ransome, Jane Doe #2, who was the first person to bring an indictment to Epstein in 2008. Jennifer Araoz, Katlyn Doe, Lisa Doe, Priscilla Doe, Teresa Helm, and to the many others who didn't come out publicly, but were victims of Epstein and Maxwell's egregious and sadistic crimes. And hopefully we can get justice for the people that abused these girls and women on the islands and mansions and properties of Jeffrey Epstein. Because not only do the victims want to see justice, but we, the people, demand it.